Testing 1, 2, 3. Can everyone hear okay? Can you all hear me in the back? Great. Well, good morning and welcome. We are glad to kick off our Rector's Forum today and like to welcome all of you who are here in the room, and we're being joined online by others. We give thanks for the technology of live stream, something that we never used to do, and now it's a part of a lot of our norms here, but we are especially grateful that we can have Dr. Todd Richardson with us. Before we begin, let us have a moment for silence and prayer. The Lord be with you. Gracious God, we give you thanks and praise for the gift of this glorious new day and for the life of this parish. Thank you for all who are gathered here in this space. Thank you for Todd Richardson and the work of Crosstown Concourse, for blessings known and unknown, but especially for those things that are good in this world, that reminder of your hope and your love and your peace. Be with us as we enjoy this time, engage this time, and may we take from it inspiration. In Jesus' name, amen. I'm going to invite Todd to come up and we'll have a seat. I'm going to do our conversation more seated and more conversational, which is the new format, that we'll just sort of sit and talk, and sometimes there'll be presentations, but this is just another way for us to be together. But I'm glad that Todd is here, and I'll give you some background on Todd. Dr. Todd Richardson is the president and CEO of Crosstown Concourse and co-founder of Crosstown Arts. Since 2010, he has led the transformation of the historic 1.5 million square foot Sears Crosstown building into a mixed-use, vertical urban village anchored in arts, education, and healthcare. Now known as Crosstown Concourse, the redevelopment is fully leased with 3,000 people coming and going daily, and this project has received a number of national and international awards. Todd comes to us having worked in lots of different contexts, but from 2009 to 2019, he was Associate Professor of Renaissance Art History at the University of Memphis. So we are especially grateful that Todd is spending time with us this morning, and we are adjusting our sound too, if you're wondering about that too. But I just want to personally say I've had the privilege of getting to know Todd in a lot of different ways. We met some years ago when he was visiting church here, and he also had children in our school. And we were just talking about the community and all that's happening that's positive in Memphis, right? But also the things that we know need some attention. So Todd has a lot of energy and a lot of vision, and I just appreciate that over the last few years we have become friends, and he will introduce himself and talk more about the work that he's doing. But again, please join me in welcoming Todd Richardson. Okay, I'm going to try this. So mine is off.
Okay. All right. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Good. Thanks for having me, Ollie, and thanks for taking your morning to be here to talk about Crosstown. What I thought would be great to begin with is to show you a quick 6-minute video. One of the seemingly dumb things we did early on in 2010, when clearly this project was never going to happen, right? It was the middle of the recession, and hello, I'm an art history professor. We decided to hire a videographer to document the process. And if it was successful, then that's great. We would have a wonderful documentary to have documented the whole process. And if it's not successful, then we'll have all the evidence for why we failed, right? So it's a win-win. So this is one of the first videos that we produced, and it still remains probably my favorite. There is a full-length documentary. It's about an hour long. You can go online and just Google Crosstown documentary, and it'll be the first link if you click on videos. And it's wonderful. It is. It shows the whole process from 2011 all the way, and then it ends on opening day. But this one really gives you a sense of really the community effort, the collective effort. This was not a single individual who made this project happen, even though I'm the one sitting in this chair. It was, as y'all know, it was a lot of people. And so this gives you that sensibility and kind of the spirit that guided the process.
Helicopter none to Zulu was water. Ready work details stairs from the line at 823 feet. We're operating on a field waiver related to
The Crosstown development project started with a conversation that probably hundreds, even thousands of Memphians have had over the last 20 years. And that is, how amazing would it be if something cool could happen with the historic Sears building? And it's hugely important that even the very first idea for this project was a shared experience, a collective thought, not just one person, one developer, or one preconceived vision.
And here we are, together, as a city, nearly 5 years later, starting construction on the renovation. Looking back at the process and how it unfolded, it's the same collective spirit, the coming together of a lot of people who believed in the idea, as far-fetched as it may have seemed.
And the development team knew this early on, that it had to be a group effort, not just about renovating a building, but also about building community. The project and vision came to be defined by this sense of community effort, the multitude of people involved, rather than simply the gigantic space to be filled. We knew from the beginning that we wanted the creative community to play a significant role in the development and also have a presence in the building. While the arts was a catalyst and means of community building, the specifics of the project took shape over time based on conversations with leaders of local organizations. It was out of this kind of collaborative process that the vertical urban village concept was born.
I think what excited everyone about the vertical urban village vision was the potential for organizations not just to co-locate or coexist like a typical mixed-use project. What inspired our founding tenants was the possibility of interweaving programming and resources, even sharing space.
Because let's be honest, even among the believers, there were still a few who thought the idea was a little crazy.
Skeptical. There's been so much talk over the years that I've been in the Memphis area, plans for this or that.
You better believe on a project like this, there are not many green lights. You don't have laws that just push and encourage this. There's a law that says you can't do this, you can't do that. The age of the building, red light, red light, red light, red light.
Other than just the pure size of Crosstown, I thought about the complexity of the financial mechanisms, how many things you had to get in place to make the whole.
From a financial perspective, it's an understatement to say that the project is challenging. No matter how great the concept is, for the project to happen, it has to work financially. 30 different sources of funding: private, philanthropic, city, county, state, and federal. At the end of the day, one of the reasons this project is happening is because all those financial partners share the same Memphis attitude, which is let's find a way to make this happen. Don't take no for an answer.
The economic impact of the project is staggering. 1,000 construction jobs and $36 million in wages. 800 net new permanent jobs when the renovation is complete with $50 million in wages. $200 million project for a building that's been empty for 20 years that'll have 3,000 people coming in and out of it every day.
But the project is worthy of finding all kind of dollars to make it work, because think about the impact of that. You know, that's the big thing, to tell people no matter how big things are, it can be done. Because if you can tackle this massive project, then anything's possible.
and to have done it is really a hugely remarkable achievement. It's being closer than most to it is a privilege to me because I know how damn hard it is.
I'd like to think that this will be really a model for us here in Memphis and Shelby County of what we can do internally, what good, strong will and perseverance and collaboration can do.
We should not build a city for our eyes. It should be built for the eyes of generations to come. We know that the buildings may be the emblem, but there's something even greater than the emblem itself, and it is the members. It is the love, it is the respect that Memphis holds for the character of our city. Crosstown tells that story better than any other.
It's the moment no one thought was possible. That said, it's also just the beginning. Success is not groundbreaking. It's not even opening day. Success is 10 years from now, and the Crosstown neighborhood is revitalized, and the building is still active and vibrant. We're not going to stop until that's our new reality. There's a lot of work to do as we move forward. We just want to say that we're inspired to be a part of that thing that makes us all Memphians. The belief that we can do great things when we work together, that we're better because we're together.
I've seen that thing 1,000 times, and it gets me every single time. So you get it, right? The collective spirit that it took to make Crosstown happen. And of course, you know, anything big done well is the same type of process. I thought it'd be fun to look through a couple of a few before and after pictures. So the bottom one, of course, is where we started back in 2010. You guys probably remember those days. The original building, the tower section, was built in 1927, and it opened August 27th, 1927, so we're close to the 96th birthday of the building itself. I was telling Ollie that this weekend actually is our 6th anniversary. So it was August 19th of 2017 that the opening celebration happened. So yesterday, 6 years ago, was I was like, most small businesses don't make it past 1 year, so I'll take 6. So then that's where we are on the top today. So yeah, it was 1.5 million square feet. That's about 25 football fields. And I love this picture because you see how long it is. If you were to take the building and turn it on its head, so that the west side was at the top, it'd be about 200 feet taller than the Chrysler building in New York, just to give you a sense. But that original building where the tower is was 620,000 square feet, and they built it in 180 days, 6 months. Isn't that crazy? Back in 1927. This shows you the cleanup job that we had to do. We saw cut through about 3 miles of concrete and took out 52 million pounds of concrete out of the building, creating the central and east and west atria. There's also residential atria that a lot of folks don't see, but it took about 6 months for demolition. We started in July of 2014, so July through the end of that year, December of 14. So on the left, the cutting of the west atrium. This is where the entrance for Church Health is, kind of where we started on the west atrium, and then on the right. So bottom floor, well, first 3 floors in this one is Church Health, and then floors 4 through 6 are commercial spaces, and then floors 7 through 10 are the apartments. So there's about 55,000 square feet of retail. about 600,000 square feet of the office space where Church Health and Methodist and Alzac St. Jude, Crosstown High, Crosstown Arts, et cetera, are located. And then there's 265 apartments. So there's about 500, a little over 500 folks who live there, about 1,500 who work there. I should pause there and say pre-COVID there were 1,500 people that work there. Today with hybrid and work from home, it's lower than that. Still the same tenants, about 52 tenants. And then about 500 students, another 100 or so staff, and then about between 750 and 1,000 people coming and going every day related to the YMCA, doctor's offices. Church Health, as you probably know, sees about 65,000 patients a year there. And the Church Health Y is actually the second largest Y in their region of 11 Ys. I think it's 11. So there's about 5,000 members there coming and going as well. So that's what makes up the 3,000 people coming and going every day. Then the central atrium. You know, when you come into Crosstown, you see in all of the atria there are these really iconic stairs. In the east atrium, you've got the red spiral stair. In the central atrium, there's what we call the big stair, which functions as a kind of amphitheater in the middle of the space. It's also a children's library. And in the west atrium, there's what we call the ribbon stair that goes all the way up to the sixth floor. And part of that is we wanted something to scream at you to say, take the stairs. You can get to the elevator, but it's tucked away back in the corner. But as y'all know, with Church Health and the Y and others, wellness is a big part of Crosstown. So we wanted those common area spaces to really be attractive. We thought, wouldn't it be a shame if all of these wonderful partners who came together to make this happen just came together and co-located, right? So arts, education, and healthcare not interacting in any interesting, meaningful, or curious ways. So we wanted to make these common areas really attractive to help people, kind of nudge people along and having those surprise encounters where, you know, I've been meaning to talk to you, right? And you can walk through the central atrium at Crosstown and see people and have conversations in 15 minutes that before would have taken you, you know, weeks or months to schedule the meeting and do all those things. Then this is the residential atrium. We have 3 of those. A lot of people don't see those because they're just in the apartments. They go from 7 through 10. So the idea here is that the apartments are loft style, but they have natural light both from the exterior and the interior. So that most apartments, their kind of bedroom is backing up to a residential atrium where they get natural light internally as well as externally. So there's 3 of these that go floors 7 through 10 for the apartments. And this just gives you a before and after of where the apartments are. So this is looking in the plaza. I always say the top picture, that was our first splash pad. And just a little depression in the parking lot. That's where the Sears auto store was when they sold boats and go-karts, and you get your tires done and get your oil checked and changed, etc. That's all gone, I promise, underneath anyway. This is I love this photo. This is Memphis teacher residency. So it gives you a sense of kind of before and after on the right, and then now this is where their offices and their resident study kind of study portals are. That's it. We can just go back to that first one. So anyway, thank you.
So the way our format is, this is a time for conversation, and I've actually developed a few questions to ask Todd, but he wants to allow some time for Q&A. So after this, Lucy Owens, who will have the mic, as you have a question, if you'll raise your hand, she'll come to you and we can start that part of things. But Todd, I've been thinking a lot about this because when we talked several years ago, it was obvious to me that this was a true calling. Many times we don't get to do the work that feels like a call, but in this particular case, as Todd was talking about his work, and I'm curious to know what both called you to this unique work and what keeps you engaged. What called you to it and what keeps you engaged in this particular work?
It's all been a process. And so we moved, my wife and I, and at the time our oldest daughter, Ava, we moved to Memphis from Amsterdam. We had lived in just outside of Amsterdam for 5 years. And so we moved here in 2008. And then I thought I'd won the lottery. I mean, coming back to Memphis, had a position as a tenure track professor at the University of Memphis teaching art history. And I thought, man, this is going to be a great life. Yeah. And then literally 12 months later, I have the first conversation about Crosstown, and it upends that dream in ways that I could have never expected. But I do think that one thing we learned in the Netherlands is the power of community and the power of density. It's the third most densely populated country in the world. And so we loved living there and having everything kind of compact and everything within walking or biking distance, and the safety that provided and the community that provided. And so on one level, moving back, I kept asking myself, how am I going to transpose my Dutch life onto this sprawling, city that is now home? And I think subconsciously I wouldn't have been able to identify it at the time, but I think that the opportunity of Crosstown kind of tapped into that love of that experience. But really what it was, I had done a master's in religious studies at Memphis Theological Seminary. My first job out of college was youth director at Idlewild Presbyterian Church. So I was at Idlewild from 1995 to 1999 and went to seminary during that time. My father is a Presbyterian minister, so the word call and vocation was not foreign to my vocabulary. And so, no offense to the church, but working in the church was really great to lead me to know that I don't want to work in the church. Sorry for those of you who do. But what those experiences did provide me is I guess an openness, a willingness to a discovery process, as opposed to, hey, this is my major, I need to get a job in my major, and I need to do these things for the next 30 years to provide security, safety, et cetera, for my family. Not that those are bad things, those are wonderful things, but for me personally, I was drawn to more of a discovery process. And so, to my wife's chagrin, I thought I was going to law school, started at grad school at psychology at the University of Memphis, went to seminary, yada, yada, and then somehow ended up in grad school in art history. But kind of to get to your question, I think that the opportunity that Crosstown provided at the time was, number one, community. I mean, the people that I came in contact with during the process. And then, I remember when we were across the street, we had just opened our development office in the former storage room of the flea market, if y'all remember the Cleveland Street Flea Market. And it had a basement, a 1,000 square foot basement with a literal moat around the basement to prevent flooding down in the basement. And that first summer, I think we had 30 concerts down there, just, college bands, just small, kind of up and coming bands. And I remember the first event we had was Memphis. Anybody remember Memphis? Funding emerging artists with sustainable tactics. And so we had a dinner. You come to dinner, artists present public projects that they want to make, and then you vote, and whoever gets the most votes gets $3,000 to create their work. And there were 75 people, and it sold out. And I was like, wow, there are 75 people who care about what we're doing. That's awesome. And so the community, and then of course the core of my being is the arts, and that's why right now, if you haven't seen, we have new T-shirts for Crosstown Concourse, and it says "Life plus Art," and it doesn't get any more specific than that. And so the idea of being able to teach and being in the university setting and have one foot there, but then another foot in the community that's grounded in the arts, that's about a process that's audacious. I mean, that was, couldn't ask for anything better.
So next question. So in this, you talk already about some of the joy that you experience, but talk a little bit about what is it about the community piece, the arts piece, people coming together that brings joy to you, and what do others at Crosstown who are partners there, who are tenants there, what are you hearing from them just about the experience of what I've observed as joy? I'm there at least twice a week for some reason, and I see so much variety, and I'm always very encouraged after I leave from the experience. But what's happening in that?
And you always have a French truck coffee in your hand, which I'm
do.
grateful for. The joy for me personally, which I think is maybe the same answer for all the questions, well, I have to say the best joy is my home. We live up on the 10th floor, and it's great. The view of the north. We live on the 10th floor. My daughter went to high school on the 4th floor, and my office is on the 2nd floor. So I have successfully transposed my Dutch life to Memphis. No, that is a massive joy. For me, the joy is every day seeing the diversity of people coming and going. Whenever other developers come to Memphis, and you can imagine they come and they're like, hey, how do we do this in our city? And I always look at them and I ask them two questions. Number one, for whom is this going to be their highest priority for the next 20 years? And that usually doesn't lead to a second conversation. And then the second question is, you want the blue pill or the red pill? The movie The Matrix, if you've ever seen that. There's a lot behind it, but the goal for us with the building, one of the mission was we wanted the population of the building, whether it's the high school or people coming and going, to be a kind of microcosm of the macrocosm of Memphis. So you think about even healthcare and wellness, education, and arts. Those are three major components of what make up the identity and culture of Memphis. And then economically, to have, I love church health being right next to Nexair. You've got health and wellness and an immensely diverse population coming in and out related to getting care at church health, next to a for-profit, very successful headquarters. And everybody just kind of comes and goes, and they love being next to each other. But that was also a concern. How was this going to go? You didn't know, right? And so having those people coming and going with such a diverse population and seeing them interact in very surprising and curious and often comical ways. My favorite moment at Crosstown is about 7:55 in the morning, the elevator in the central atrium behind the reception desk. You get in, inevitably there's about 6 people on the elevator. There's a couple of folks, healthcare execs going to their office. There's 2 or 3 students going to school, and there's a couple people in their pajamas taking their dog out. And it's like, this is it. This is it. And it was awkward at first, but then, you get into it and you're like, study hard, did you sleep well? And so I think that is what brings me the most joy. Asian night market was awesome. If anybody saw about that, it was a big surprise. We were expecting 1,000 people and there were 8,000 people. But just having the diversity of that. And I think for people who are there, it's not just an office. They come and there's live music pop-ups, there's free art galleries, there's students coming and going, which your greatest strength is your greatest weakness, but they bring so much energy. And so if you're going there just to work and you take a break and you walk out, imagine the difference of being at Crosstown versus, nothing against Crescent Center at Poplar and 240. It's just a different experience. And so the people who choose to be there love that energy and love the surprise every day. And I'm hopeful that it's also that that experience, that unique experience, and I hope high quality experience that also gets us past, you know, what the larger office market is experiencing from, you know, less demand because of hybrid and working from home. People actually want to work at Crosstown.
Thank you. So also thinking about all of the revitalization that's taking place and how much hope there is in that, naturally I'm curious, what are the challenges? What are some of the ongoing challenges or challenges that you know are on the horizon that is unique to a venture like this?
I think that I always say that Crosstown, one of the reasons I, or really nobody on our development team, takes credit for Crosstown is because it genuinely was a miracle. It was a confluence of a lot of things that happened in a perfect timing. We got our bids for construction at the end of the recession. Crosstown could never happen today. And you could never, it would, you know, it was a $210 million project, $210 million project, and when we got our bids in the beginning of 2014, today it would be what, Paul, 350 at least, and it's not possible to charge enough rent, you know, office, retail, residential, to make that math work in terms of debt service. And so we got our bids at the end of the recession. It was also at a time when a lot of our founding partners were trying to figure out efficiencies and working together and consolidating space. And so that was also a big one. And then of course the person who owned the building and the patient capital that he was able to have for our own creative process. But the challenges today are economic with interest rates and things like that. On a daily basis, the challenges, you know, you don't build community and then move on to the next project. It's a daily, sometimes a daily grind and sometimes a daily joy. You know, having high school students in a professional environment where you have investors and healthcare and all sorts of things is a big challenge. But it's also a great reward in that high school doesn't happen in a vacuum on their own campus where they can do anything. They get, before and after school, they have to learn the decorum of what it means to be in a professional environment and interact with folks. And so having, I mean, there's a reason why usually in development, retail's over here, and office is over here, and residential is over here, and those things don't really interact because they have their own needs for everything from trash pickup to security to parking to all the things. And so having those stacked on top of each other in 10 floors presents its own challenges for sure. And it's why I feel so blessed and is the Spirit giving me, because I can't, giving me the mindset to be able to be there every day and to have someone who not only was part of the development team, so sees the history, the intention, the vision from the inception of it, but now making sure that that flows through into the operations of it as well.
Well, that last response is connected to my next question, was what are you and your leadership team and the stakeholders, what are you learning about this undertaking? Because you just shared the coincidence that it's a 6-year anniversary now, right? And whatever the future holds, but what are you learning that you can share, or that are opportunities or things that will have to be considered for this to continue to be a success? That can be heavy, naturally, and you're going in it, you live there, you literally are in it.
Right, right.
So, yeah.
Again, I will answer from my own experience, but I think it may be applicable to the broader context. Since we're at church, I can talk about spirit and soul and calling and growth in that sense. I think that during the development, one of the reasons of the many that we were successful is it wasn't a succeed at all cost. Meaning, I was a professor. I loved my job, and if it didn't succeed, I'm good. Like, I'll go work on my next book and teach and be happy. McLean Wilson, my co-leader, was he was happy in his job, and so in our development team, when we came up with this notion of a vertical urban village with the founding partners that we had, that gave us something to communicate in the community. And if people felt like they needed it, I told Staley, I'm not going to spend the next 5 years of my life convincing people of something they think they don't need. We're just going to share a vision. And if people buy into that vision and want it to happen, great. If they don't, I got a job to teach, and I'm happy there. And so we share a vision in that sense. And fortunately, as I mentioned, the miracle happened. I had convinced myself falsely that my identity was not tethered to success. I told myself every day, hey, I'm good. But when we opened, and so much work and money and sweat and tears had gone into it, around 2019, I was teaching still, helping to launch Crosstown Arts in the building, responsible for the building as a whole, and I just hit a wall and couldn't get out of bed, in the morning. And I tried to figure out what that was about, and ultimately, because I know we're short on time, it had to do with how intimately my identity was tethered to the building, to the success of the building, and doing everything I could to make it a success, so much so I had to be responsible for a lot of different things. And so whenever people would offer praise or criticism, you were praising and criticizing me. And so inevitably, when you operate something where 3,000 people are coming and going, there's lots of recommendations for how things can be better. And so if you internalize those things, let me give you a recommendation of how you can be better, because my identity was so tethered to the building. That's where my resistance came, and I just got tired. And so that process led me to 4 years of work of what else is my identity tethered to? My kids, my wife, my all of my roles. And so I think the learning has come from, I believe we come to understand who we are through conflict, because inevitably in that conflict we have strong reactions. And so the point is actually to find the source of that strong reaction, and then you come to learn about yourself. And there's lots of conflict at Crosstown. And so now those conflicts suck energy less, and as I take them for opportunities to learn. And then broader, I think that's the case for the building as a whole, our leadership team, our tenants. They're willing to, the high school kids did X, Y, and Z. We know this is a learning, this is a learning curve. Let's work together to work it out. But in the first 2 years, that was not the tone. It was, you need to get a handle on this, and these kids can't do this. Now it's different. That's one, I keep bringing up the high school, and not to say that that's the thorn in our side. It is interesting. But you transpose that to, it's an open building. We have 32 entrances and exits. We did that very, very intentionally so that it could be porous, and you wouldn't have to walk past a security guard to get to where you're going, so that people would feel welcome, feel like it's a place for them. But there's 32 entrances and exits, and it's a security nightmare. And so it's a very open building, and so there's conflict as a result of that vision. And now it's just a work in process, as opposed to we have to find the solution that fixes this now. And it's a process.
Well, thank you for that. I'd love for us to just we have about 5 minutes to take a couple of questions. Lucy Owens has the microphone, so if you have a question, if you'll raise your hand, and Lucy will come to you.
Yes, mine's not really a question. Mine's a thank you and kudos.
Thank you.
I am an avid dog person. I probably twice a week go to the Concourse with my little Yorkie. And, you know, people, lifelong Memphians, used to hear you can go to the Peabody and see Memphis walk by. That's not true anymore. You can go to the Concourse and see Memphis walk by. And y'all have the best behaved children, that teenagers that are in the lobby. You never hear them scream. You never hear them curse. They're just enjoying life. And it's a very good job.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you saying that. There's about 60 dogs that live in the building. There's a little dog park in the back if you didn't know. Oh, that's awesome.
Thanks, Todd. As one of the legions of people that were living and working near your project and just wishing with all of our might that you would be able to harness the whirlwind as you have, we just thank you again for your continued passion and commitment to this space. My question has to do with, and I don't think I've asked you this before, but did you have any expectations, or do you have any expectations about how the success of Crosstown could drive organic development around that neighborhood? Obviously, you've got Evergreen and Overton Park, which anchor the east, but to the north, south, and west.
Yes, I definitely had expectations that have been disappointed of yet. We had I'd say probably it was the summer of 13. We had a 3-month-long internal debate of, do we spend some of this money to buy up the properties around the building, which of course you remember they were all empty, or do we create a situation where other owners, developers can come in and kind of be a part of the evolution of the neighborhood, have their fingerprint on, you know, things that happen. At the time, we were very wary of being that developer that controls everything, and so we ultimately decided not to purchase those properties. When people say, what would you do different, that's the first thing I say. It was a huge mistake, because unfortunately we just have owners in the area now who just see dollar signs in their head and will sell you a tear down building for $800,000. And so that's what's, you know, at least in that, you know, from say Crosstown to Overton Park, and then Watkins over to the interstate, that is what's been prohibitive. Although I will say there's momentum now, where the Mound, for example, our beloved Mound that has been empty for 60 years. I believe dirt will be moving by the end of the year, and that will there'll be roughly 80 to 100 homes, and homes in the form of single-family homes, townhomes, some apartments as well. So that'll be helpful. And then, yeah, the whole idea was that it would be a pebble in the water that creates ripples that moves throughout the community. But it's definitely been slower than what we would have hoped. But at the same time, 6 years, right? Blink your eyes, and it's here. So I'm confident for the next decade for sure.
Well, Todd, thank you for this, and friends, thank you for being here this morning. We are at our time, and so if you'll join me in giving thanks to Todd Richardson.
Thank you. Thanks, Alan. Appreciate it. Thank you.
I'd also like to invite you 1 week from today. We have a unique opportunity to hear about the gift of tutoring and mentoring children. We will have representatives from the Dorothy Day House, Emmanuel Center, and Multinational Ministries. If you've ever been interested in being a part of the solution, as it were, and helping guide young people, their representatives would like to talk about ways that members of Grace St. Luke's can tutor and can help in some different ways. So that will be 1 week from today. And today is also Episcopal School Sunday, and I know that's important, Todd, with children who've been a part of our school. So a lot of exciting things are happening today. So at 10:30, we will recognize our teachers and commission them and